Feral. We are talking about the movie Feral. Now this one is directed and co-written by Mark Young. Now let me ask you a question. Did you watch the movie Cabin Fever and think, this movie could do with more zombies? Well, let me tell you, I gotcha. Because that pretty much is what this movie is all about. It focuses on 6 medical students as they are out on a kind of a camping trip in the middle of nowhere. All kind of like to, as they kind of head off to their different kind of careers in a kind of a last hurrah, so to speak. However, while they are there, there seems to be some type of entity in the woods, shall we call it, that kind of attacks one of their members and leaves them kind of like quite badly injured, and another one potentially even worse. So they managed to find this kind of cabin and this kind of guy who's kind of a little, seems like he's somewhat of a survivalist out there, but it seems like there is a kind of a deeper threat here, and it turns out to be some type of, without kind of giving anything away, a kind of almost like a zombie-like virus, shall we say. Now, I wasn't sure if this was going to strictly be a zombie film, but they actually do say the people die and then come back. So it is a zombie film, but they kind of act more like rage-infected people from like 28 days later. But they do specify that these characters do die and come back. So ultimately, it's a zombie film. So I'm going to kind of go into the plot there, because the plot, to be fair, is quite slight. There's not a lot to this movie, but I've got to say it's a very well-made film, and I thought this does have quite a slick-looking kind of production value to it. It looks like it's very kind of well-produced and kind of like well-made with good quality equipment, good lighting, all that sort of stuff. So I thought it definitely does have a slick and polished feel to it. I thought the characters here were all pretty good, and I kind of really kind of liked their kind of their kind of interplay, their relationships, and they avoided one of the kind of the tropes that I hate in these films, where you have the one single character going out with all the couples. They're all couples here. It just makes sense. I just don't know why that's a thing. There is a trope that it does use there that kind of bugs me, and I wish we would get past by now, but I'll come on to that. So I thought that was quite good. I thought the effects here were actually fairly good as well. The kind of like the zombie effects. They almost, well, they're kind of, I'm kind of struggling to call them zombies, but because they kind of look more creature-like, if that makes sense. But we're told that they're dead and come back to life, so I guess they are zombies. But I thought the effects were quite good, and then there are some, although it's not mega explicit, there's some fairly good sort of gore scenes here, and the kills kind of look quite graphic and kind of quite gruesome. But all the performances were fairly good. You know, and it kind of runs at a feral pace. You never feel like you're kind of getting bored at any point in this movie. Anything that I didn't like? Well, the point, a couple of things here. So one of the things is that we're told that they're all medical students, and I thought that was going to play like a big part in the movie, but it really doesn't. I thought that would have been quite an interesting way to go, because they're all specialised in kind of like different fields of medicine, kind of and that. And I thought that was going to be like a real big plot point, but it really isn't, to be honest. So that seemed like a little bit of a wasted opportunity there. It does have one of the kind of tropes. This is going to be a mild spoiler, I've got to say, but when are we going to get over this final girl thing? I mean, it's just so played out. I think the last time I've seen a male survive to anything was bloody The Evil Dead. I'm kind of sick of it, to be honest with you. It's such a cliche now. It would be nice to have a little bit difference. Let's have a male character make it to the end, or at least a couple of characters. Anyway, spoiler a bit over now. Ultimately, as I've mentioned, there's not a lot to this film. You know, it is just kind of a very kind of slender plot, shall we say. Acting wise, like I said, I liked pretty much everyone. The guy who ends up being this kind of survivalist character is a little bit on the nose, I would say, but not maybe not bad, but just a little bit kind of like, I've got stuff to hide. But I thought it was, you know, ultimately I enjoyed this film. I thought it was a good film, and you know, it's not particularly original. It's not going to kind of blow your socks off with any kind of like outstanding kind of like twists and turns or anything like that. But it's a fairly lean kind of zombie film with some fairly good effects, well shot, well lit, with kind of like, you know, well kind of defined characters. I think the main girl, I think, is very kind of an interesting character that you kind of want to follow and you kind of want to root for, so that was good. And ultimately, I've got to say, my quibbles are relatively minor with this movie. I actually quite enjoyed it, and, you know, would definitely probably watch it again. So what would I give Feral? overall, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.